Okay, so these frames here, we can lock in either one, and if they don't turn out to be good, we can go to the next, and if they both don't turn out to be good, then we can we just undo it, you know, or go to a nicer one. I don't have a lot of real low-grade frames, and these may not even be either. So the advantage of doing something like this would be putting a deposit on one of these, and if it turns out to be worse than we're thinking, then we just undo it. If it's something you can work with, if it's something you work with, we'll just adjust the price. If it's not, then we just undo it. Or like I said, if you want to go towards maybe one of the nicer grades, we can go that route. The reason I'd suggest it in this case is because these tubs are trashed, like both of them. I mean, this one's not probably the worst ever, but it's got some issues on it for sure. And then this one here is clearly, you can see it here. I mean, it is done. But the thing is that sometimes on CJs, you'll see a tub rotten and you'll see a perfect frame under them. And sometimes you'll see a shitty frame and you'll see a really nice tub. So it just kind of depends on what it was used for, where it was, you know, sitting and blah, blah, blah. So, and the reason I emphasize this on either one of these is because it's going to save you a good amount of change if you take a flyer on something that I am predicting it being a low grade. It ends up being, let's say, an A or a B. And there's really no risk. And the reason we do it that way is it allows us to cash flow the business. So this is probably one of those things, if you look at this, either one of these tubs, I will probably never just, you know, until we're completely cleaned up out here, go after either one of these frames. Now, that's a bummer because we may be sitting on something decent under these, but there's so much other stuff for us to do on work and orders, you know, a deposit invoice or paid invoices, that by going after a frame like this guy, which it looks actually pretty good, they like to go in the back area. And if they are in the back area, that's not the end of the world. You can see a little bit maybe there and possibly on the inside. We'll see if it's, I scope them and we'll clean them up and scope them once we get them pulled and just see. But neither one of them are cracked back there, and they're both narrow track, so early CJ7 frames. And I'll show you the front of them. And there's a good chance, you know, we price them what we're going to price them at. Well, I take that back. This is actually a wide track. This one here is a wide track. So this is going to be late CJ7. This one's going to be early CJ7. I thought they were both narrow, but I can tell by the shock towers they're being bolted on. So, and anyway, this, trying to get my point across here. If we get them out and they're better than, you know, what I price you, and let's say they're let's just for example say that this frame here comes out to be as good, probably won't as good as my really clean frame I have right now, but in the case that it is, or close to it, instead of calling you and going, hey man, sorry, out of luck, I'm gonna need more out of this thing, we don't do that. You get the frame that you get, and you're gonna see a video of it, so I can't make up an excuse and say all of a sudden it's not there. It's not something I've ever done, not something I ever will do. So if you take a flyer on something like this, there's no risk on your part. There is cash involved, that in a sense a credit card, not really cash, I guess, but that money is put back on your card if it ends up being a dud. And if it ends up being good, then we collect the balance, and that's really up to you to decide. I mean, I'm not going to hold somebody to something, especially if it ends up being better than we thought, on a cheaper frame, and they decide they don't want to do it. But it does put it in our mind as far as we go, as far as that garage is concerned, as far as my staff is concerned, on how many people I bring in per day and yada yada yada, on where we put the cash that we have for the cash we have in the bank, in a sense, because we're small business just like anybody else is. So and I hope that makes sense, and if it doesn't, feel free to call me and I can explain it. But I think that, you know, just cash flow, it's all about cash flow. So otherwise, this guy, and this guy are my least looking CJ7 you know, tubs and possibly frames, and that one might be good too. So we have, the good news is let's say we price you on this guy here and it doesn't work out, unless you want for sure to go to a wide track, and we can go to this one, price you on this one, doesn't work out, If it's wide track and we don't have any other options for wide track and it doesn't come out to be good, we'll just cancel out, no hard feelings. The thing is, we'll sell this frame. If this frame comes out somewhat usable and the back's not completely blown out on it, the front's straight, solid, that kind of stuff, it's out. It's there. It is what it is. Like I said, there's yes, we'll have refunded the money, so since we don't have that cash, but it just gets us that extra week to know, okay, what's on the weekly schedule. Okay, so this frame, and this frame, I believe, are all going to be in that grading of, I'm going to just say a C, to get it into that price range you're wanting. And then if they come out to be better, awesome, you get a nicer frame for the same price. And if they come out to be worse, then no worries, we'll cancel it out and you'll be on your way with something else, or maybe something else has come in by then. Okay, and this is also a possibility. This is another wide track frame, so we have 2 possible wide tracks, and then I think I might have another narrow. So I think we have a pretty solid way to go about this. This guy here I think is actually a good frame, so I probably won't include this, at least at the moment. Now if I get in a bind and I don't have anything, I'd look at putting you into something like this. But I'm gonna say on this guy, this is probably gonna be a B grade, a little bit higher on that guy. And again, that could be the opposite. We might pull something like this and it might be a dud, and have to go into one of these guys. So I would say suggestion for you, because budget is something that we're going for here, and that's okay. We do that all the time, especially on crawler builds or kind of one-off builds people are doing. I would say go to a C, price you at that one, and then if it doesn't end up being a good one, and there's not another option that's in that range, I'll make you a better deal on something like that guy, if that turns out to be, and that one may not. It may be the same way. You could go to skip to this, and you could always back up to this, refund a little bit. There's some process there. The good news is none of these are going to go anywhere right now. We are absolutely swamped with dismantle stuff. So if you decide to do it, I'll go ahead and get it done. We'll get it done ASAP. Matter of fact, I might even be able to squeeze it in this week. We have a pretty big shipment. We've taken on deposits, actually full payments, final approval videos on tubs that are going from, right now we got Ohio all the way up to Maine. So I'm working on a New York order possibly, and another Maine one. So if we can get it on that for you, it's going to save you some money on freight as well. Although I know you talked about coming out here, and you're absolutely more than welcome to do that. Now, if you come out here, you definitely are going to want to put a deposit on one of these, because the only way they're going to get pulled and ready for you, waiting for you, is if there's something in line to be worked on. So, okay. So that gives you a little bit of idea on not only the deposit process and the way we cash flow that stuff, but also, what we're looking at as far as condition and quality. So for right now, again, I didn't look at this one very much, but you can just see the absolute junk tub it's got on it. That one as well. These both being, this one being wide, this one being wide track. If you're wanting the later, and if you're wanting early, and if you don't care, then no big deal. And just so you know, for your build, what you can consider is the way the shocks are. So if you look at the way the shock is mounted there, it's on the spring plate at the bottom, and it's on right there. And not that that really matters, but if you look at a wide track, which this one is, but the axle's out of it, I want to show you one with an axle in it so you can see. So now you see it's up higher, you get a little bit more stroke out of your shock, and your shock is mounted to slightly lower, and it's actually mounted to a tab on the axle versus a spring plate on the bottom. The spring plate still houses the sway bar on these, but it doesn't have the rear mount for the shock. So, okay, and then the rest of these are YJs. And I did briefly talk to you about a YJ, and I don't know if that's a possibility. A YJ frame and a CJ7 frame are almost exactly they're the exact same length, they're the exact same width. There's differences obviously in the shocks, the way they mount on, the motor mounts are slightly different on them. And a CJ is 2 C channels basically welded together to make a box frame, and a YJ is just a square tubing. So I think they have a little bit more strength there, but I mean, look at that thing, it's toast. This one came from the East Coast. We bought it for the wiring out of it. So, I mean, every once in a while we'll get something we have to get wiring out of from out there. And, you know, we get good parts off of them, but a lot of that stuff is the rest of it's done, let's just put it that way. So, and for anybody that's watching this video, because obviously all our videos end up on YouTube, it's the only way to really send this kind of size. My name is Jeremy. This is the yard. We have 7 acres out here. Okay. And just had Christmas 2023, so about to hit New Year's this coming Monday. Give you kind of an example of time. Okay, so now these are some of my TJ frames. We kind of started stocking on these because these were super hard for us to get last year. And same exactly dimension, okay, as a CJ and a YJ. They are literally tip to tip 144 inches. And they're beveled in. If you look at the where they kind of neck in at the front here, they all do that. So these are all nice, clean, straight frames. But the one I wanted to point out to you, and I have a video of this one, I might ever send it to you, because of your build and because it's such a popular swap to do right now, is an LJ, especially on a scrambler, because the scrambler and an LJ are almost identical lengths. Now this one has a tweak in it. It's right here in the front. But this one would be fairly easy to take a quarter power between these two because it's not kinked anywhere and just shove that right back out. It's not off by a lot, but it is off a little bit. So, and again, I wouldn't even be showing this to you other than the fact that you're happen to be mentioning the scrambler a couple times. And this would be a great way to get, you know, coil springs, modern suspension. It's just as cheap to build a coil suspension lift kit or lift or whatever you're doing on it as it is to do leaf springs, and it doesn't get any more involved. As a matter of fact, I think some would say it actually is less involved in some ways. So that one's slightly longer. It's the only LJ frame I have at the moment, and it's half the price of a normal LJ frame. Normally those guys go for $3,500, and I probably could have sold 10 to the one I have right here, just with that because it's such a cheap frame. People have seen it and called, and then they thing out. So if you need coils, if you decide to go that route, I can supply you with sets of coils, lifted or non. If you want leaf springs, we can roll you out a set of leaves, lifted or non. And then same thing, if you already have your axles figured out, great. Now, if you do have axles figured out, then it would definitely be maybe a better way to go back into a CJ or a YJ. But if you haven't quite figured that out, I look at going that route. And then one other thing over here, I'll point out to interesting things that we got in the yard. We have a set of WAG axles that just came in under an S10 Blazer. Somebody did a swap on. Now these are a little aggressive, maybe overkill for what most people are going to want. So I think it's either a 488 or 513, and I believe they're locked front and rear. But it is a set of 44s front and rear, which are hard to get. They're the 6-lug, of course, because that's what WAGs had. So something to keep in mind if you're looking for something like that or do need a set of axles. And those are set up leaf spring right now, so which is the way they came. All right, so take a look at this. I think that gives you some options. I wanted to look at one other thing while I had your attention for a minute here. This is a 5. Actually, I think this might be my CJ6 frame, which would also get you in the area that realm of length. See how much longer this thing is? This is a beautiful frame. This is going to be a pretty penny, although it has been modified at the front. It is a straight frame, but this would be a little bit more difficult to set up the way you're wanting to do it. If you're building a CJ6, I'd say absolutely, but if not, I'd probably steer you out of this because the steering is hard to set up on these. Of course, we got a 5 there, and then these are the YJ frames. And then I got sidetracked on that LJ frame, but it doesn't matter. There's none over there anyway. So let me see. This guy here. Yeah, this is the B, I believe we have. I don't know if this one's up right now. I believe this, no, this might be an A actually. This one just got pulled. This is another A grade we have. So, and it's a wide track. There's your shock mounts that are there. This one has not been cleaned. It hasn't been listed, anything like that. So we'll pull the bracing off the back and make sure there's no cracks in it. But this one will be available here. Probably the next warm day we can get out here and start washing frames again. So, okay. That's it. I don't believe I have any more. Actually, no, I don't have any more. So the 2 I have that are listed, that are the one I have listed right now, and then the one there I just showed you for the nicer grades, for anybody out there looking for a nice clean CJ7 white track, those would be it. I believe we have one narrow track that's pulled sitting over there that's listed on the site. I can send to anybody that's interested. And that one's been photoed and listed on its own. We got several CJ7 frames, but the only other ones we have in the yard that are, you know, basically pre-dismantle pricing and whatnot are going to be these 4 that are sitting here. And we can take a shoot at any of them or all of them if we need to. Okay? All right. Thanks, buddy. 303-666-9020. I'll shoot this over as soon as it uploads on our satellite internet. It takes a little bit, so be patient with us, but we'll get it over to you soon enough. Thank you.